So over the last semester, actually more like over the last few years of college, I've seen more of who I am and what I can do and what I can where I can go with my future. A lot can be said for how reserved an experience that was about the world when I first came here. I first grew up in within white space. I was shaped by it. It shaped my mentality and how I think about the world. Um, but my family was originally born and started in Chicago, and I never knew the struggles that they had to deal with, how they had to fight and climb out of poverty and grow up in the middle class now because that's what they struggled to do. And it was never really known to me, and they'll probably never tell me the truth all the way. Not for lack of trying though, because I have asked. Yeah. I just can't picture how the social attitudes back then were for them, because I can't picture how it could be so bad where you'd be afraid to walk out your front door, because to do that would be risking your very life just because of the skin color. Like there's something that you can't change physically, and that's terrifying. Um, I never had to deal with that. And instead of having to face being black in the United States of America from outside white space like they did, I had to grow up from within white space, learning that hate, cut off from any culture but theirs. Like, I didn't even have any experience with traditional black or Pan-African culture. I never had that experience. I just grew up in white space. I didn't have any friends of color, only white friends. I wasn't allowed or taught to play like the stereotypical sports like basketball or football or anything like that. That wasn't something that my family tried to teach me, because they were so against raising me in something that they thought would be a stereotypical way of making me be looked down upon by someone else. They didn't want me to be looked down upon, so they tried to teach me to, I guess, be white in a way. They taught me to be white. I think the main thing that it taught me is that there was no intellectual, spiritual, or physical difference between any classmate of mine besides skin tone. There was no difference. That's what my childhood taught me about being raised around white people. But it also showed me that no matter where you go, there's always going to be stereotyping. There's always going to be people who, no matter how much they smile, no matter how much they praise you, they let it slip once in a while that they have that little thought in the back of their head, like, oh, he's good at this because he's black, or he's not good at this because he's black. And it's still there to this day. It was a social hierarchy of a bygone era that's still here and raising its ugly head in this new generation. I'm fortunate enough to live in an era where a black man can lead a nation where he would have formerly been considered less than human. And fortunately, he hasn't been shot yet. Hey, that's incredible to me. One where interracial and same-sex coupling, which was so hated, and it still is to this day, that is not taboo anymore. It's incredible. But someone will always try to find some way to make themselves seem superior to another group or person just because of something that they can't control, or a difference in physiology or ideology or biology. And I finally get that's never going to change. That's an immutable fact that will remain until the end of time, that people will always try to do that. But then from someone else's mindset, from someone else's perspective, does that mean that I'm better than them or that I'm inferior to somebody else? I don't think so. Because who would think like that? I don't think like that. I can't think like that, because I don't know. I can't weigh someone else's worth, because I don't see worth in a person that is measurable. Like, there's no way of measuring worth other than concept of money, and there's no way that you can do that with somebody, especially in social interactions. There's no way you can just base your decisions and interactions upon social worth. And I can't say that I understand social disparity or anything like that, but I haven't tried to challenge what it means to be me. I've never questioned my own identity or my motives for wanting what I want, or my goals, my ambitions. I never questioned any of that because I've always just thought, I just want that. Doesn't mean that I'm sure of myself and that I know who I am and how I identify. Not at all. At all. If anything that this semester has shown me, it's that the construct of an identity is something that's at the same time yours and your own and individual and personal, and then there's one that's given to you by the larger society, one that frames how you picture yourself. I mean, individually, because of our own circumstances and how the world works and everything's so tenuous and fluid and events are so fast, our identities and how we view our own value, our own worth, are establishing the idea of superiority, or establishes superiority over somebody or somebody else, because we're so concerned about ourselves that we mentally check ourselves to see how someone else is doing. And the value of your public identity, the one that's hardwired into all of our young people, every single person, and floods any time period or region with that particular brand of crazy, is much more solid in its foundation and backed by almost the entire population of that generation. But which one is worth more? I mean, how can you weigh that, the public or the private? Which identity is worth more to the individual, and which identity should be maintained if you need to have one maintained? I mean, my personal identity is worth more to me than any label or title that society could ever attempt to give me, because I value myself and my life and my ambitions above and beyond petty and small-minded classifications. I mean, yeah, I'm black, I'm a natural-born male, I'm bisexual, I'm able-bodied, I'm mentally sound, but that's not my identity. These are all just labels and titles to describe my actions and my habits and what I do. And it describes my physical attributes, but it doesn't describe me. It's not my identity. I'm not my race, I'm not my sexuality, I'm not my gender, I'm not my religion, I'm not none of that. I am who I make myself to be. I am who I want myself to be, and nobody else. I'm not who anybody else tries to make me to be. Nothing more than that, and I'm nothing lesser. Ever.